Jewel, what's up?
How are you?
I'm well, brother. Welcome. What's going on, everybody? So today I got my buddy Jewel in the chair today, and we'll be showing and showcasing you guys how to achieve a modern day mullet with tapers. So in order to achieve the modern day mullet, we have to first evaluate what we're given and how we can utilize it to break it down to its fullest potentials. So already through consultation, Jewel wants to trim off the slightest bit in the fringe to bring the height up a tad bit, but we're also going to make sure we keep majority of the weight and the structure to cover majority of the corners. So from here, we'll also do higher tapers on the sides. We're going to eliminate having the hooks, and towards the back, we're also going to make sure that it's trimmed the slightest bit as well. You can kind of see already it's quite heavy and bulky. So just from combing through it, you could already feel how heavy and long it really truly is. So first we'll start off with trimming the top with shears, and then shall we proceed on doing clipper work on the side of the hair. So I like to make sure that the crown is saturated first and work my way all the way down and out. Make sure we get that fringe. A lot of hair is hidden underneath all here. And by combing through each section of the hair, I could already feel where the hair is super long that doesn't need to be long. This is how we're gonna break down the mullet. I like breaking it down into a nice horseshoe section. So I'll take from the crown and I'll make sure that I comb down the section that I'm working on, the section that's gonna be worked on either side. A lot of panel work. So once you divide and conquer, you'll be able to understand how this haircut really comes together. Section off your work. It'll be really easy for you to get through everything. So mullets, as we all know, were a thing of the past and have made themselves back into the limelight, into the modern day age. In order for a mullet to look very, very successful in today's day and age, we like to incorporate zero tapers to modernize it, and on top of that, the new scissor work and techniques that allowed the haircut to be very, very nice and chic and unique. So in order for me to break down this mullet, so panel work, what I like doing is I like working on the top section first. So I'll take a section from the top, and you can see how the hair gradually falls down on top of that fringe section there. So it definitely doesn't need to be this long, but ideally if we were to cut length off, I usually take off about an inch. And I like point cutting. By point cutting, you'll be able to give more of a refined, soft finish rather than super straight textbook. I find the straight across cuts are really nice and really good for long and short wispy hairs, and point cutting is really nice for thicker, medium to thicker hair. Making sure that this whole entire section on top of Jewel's head is consistently cut all the way through from crown to fringe once we're finished with this. So scissor work is going to be your absolute friend that ties this all together to make sure that it's a nice cohesive cut, all tied together with modern techniques, making this retro look come alive. Next section, draw it up and over. All right, so top is all finished from side to side. It has all been cut to the T. And in order to make sure that this is all evenly cut, I'll start from the crown and make sure that we cross section from back to front this time. Make sure that it's all been cut evenly. I'll take very loose sections moving forward gradually. It doesn't have to be entirely by the book in terms of like sectioning, just in terms of if you have a feel for each section of where they should be, it is more than appropriate to grab and pull hair, comb width at a time moving forward. And you can still see where those sections were irregular. So your job here is to now just point cut, make sure that they're all nice and evenly straight at this point. So that's all finished. We'll work a little bit on the fringe. And Jules says he wants to have the fringe raise up just a tad bit. So we'll tighten up that section. And already I could already see where this fringe should be in order for this to all be nice and tight and taut. So what I like doing first is I like taking a vertical section downwards and I like over directing the hair forward like so, and I'll point cut the hairs so that they actually tighten up. And by doing this, you'll be able to get the structure of the fringe to be so much more ingrained and in shape. It's almost like the hair cuts itself. Alrighty, it's coming together quite nicely. One side is finished. And after you finish the one side, what I recommend doing is actually raising the hair off the head. And you can see more hairs that need to be trimmed. And by raising the hair off the head like this and snipping all the way across, it will give it a more softer finish. Pulling the hair off the head and giving it a different angle and snipping the ends. You can see once the hair all falls down on Jules' head, you can see at the very widths of those tips are so much more refined and more soft. So we're going to repeat the same steps on the other side. Make sure we do the same thing on this side as well. A lot of the bulk and length is all hidden within this fringe here, so we got to make sure that we tackle it as best as we can. So next, what I like doing after we finish with the fringe, you guys can see how it looks now. It looks beautifully tucked and tidy. I like pulling horizontal sections standing off to the right side of the client, and I'll take individual panel sections and I'll pull up each individual section upright like this, and a lot of the thickness and the length is all hidden here, and by point cutting these sections away, you'll get the fringe to sit way more wispy. So tuck that away, that section is done with. We'll repeat and rinse that step all the way through across this fringe. So we finished with the fringe, and you guys could see generally how it sits now. It's not so elongated and bulky and heavy. It actually flows quite nicely. And from here, stemming off from working on this section, we're gonna do some panel work, and we're gonna migrate towards the side and the back. So once we finish with the fringe itself and we're completely happy, I like moving the fringe around and making sure the hair has movement, and you can kind of see how the hair already throws. And if there are some irregular long lengths, I like to individually target them and section that out and solo it out and draw it up and just point cut it and take off desired length if needed. But all that aside, now we get to work on the side panels here. You can see how they're more elongated. Drawing it all the way back to the back here. Now our job is basically to connect it all together and make sure it flows very, very seamlessly. So you can see all those areas that we've already worked on, from the frontal fringe leading to on top of that horseshoe parietal. Now our job is to make sure that that all connects to the side in the panel. So stemming off from the crown, that's where all this style is really going to happen. We're going to take individual sections and we're going to make sure that it's all cut accustomed to fit Jules' head. So from the top, we're going to grab sections that's been cut. I'm going to pull it out and draw it out, and you can see where the hair needs to be cut underneath here. You're just going to match it all accordingly. I like doing point cuts because it's more rugged, gives it more of a natural finish. We're just going to repeat that same step all the way through. You're going to comb it down. You're going to see how the hair sits and lays. So this whole entire panel has been finished. Now we're going to work on the next panel behind it. Once you start visualizing panels, you'll be able to understand haircuts way more easier. Just like that. Now that's all finished. You can see how natural everything seems to flow. And we're going to draw it all the way back to this back panel here. Draw it down a tad bit. Elbows are always going to be tucked just to ensure that your shoulders aren't going to be blown out by the end of your career. You just connect it all together. All those long lengths, connect it all to those lengths that match the previous sections that have already been cut. Super easy peasy. All right, so this side essentially is all finished. Worked on every single section to ensure that it is all connected to the lengths that have been touched and cut on top already. And now you're going to do the same thing on the other side. All flows pretty nice. So we're going to spin them around and you're going to see the difference in change. On the one side that's not been touched yet, you can see all these elongated lengths that still need to be trimmed the slightest little bit compared to what has already been trimmed and cut. Now everything just flows so beautifully and seamlessly like so, just like that. We'll do the same thing on this side. Comb it on down, panels at a time. Okay. You can see right here, I'm going to draw it out a bit more just so you can see what and where it needs to be cut. Underneath here, you can see those previous sections here and all this long length sitting right on top of it. Just go on in. Snip it away with point cuts. Take it easy. It's really easy to snip your palm doing this technique because you get a little bit too scissor happy. So we finished scissor work all on top and on the sides, connecting the sides to the top, connecting the top to the crown to the back of the head. All the scissor work is all done. We've alleviated all the weight, added texture into Jules' hair, and now it's time to work on the sides. But before we even touch base on the sides, I'll switch over to my blow dryer, start from the crown, migrate towards forward, make sure the back is all velvety soft. And you're going to use your hand as a tool to feel for all those little wet pockets to make sure everything's all soft and ready to go before we hit the clipper work. So I'm going to give you guys a 360 of what we've accomplished so far before we start doing clipper work on the side of Jules' head. So here we go. All scissor work. So you guys have a general idea visually of how everything is supposed to stack and shape onto Jules' head once we hit the clipper work. From here, I would advise grabbing a comb. I like using my fine tooth side to sort everything out, make sure I know how everything lays. I could feel for all those elongated hairs that need to be more connected. You can see certain hairs that fall off of the comb a bit longer than others. So from here, you get to just make sure you keep mental note of all these things and you can tackle it once you hit the side of the head with all clippers. From here, I like grabbing my trimmer and I like implementing trimmer lines to make this taper very, very nice and tight. So the line that I'll chase for today will be right about below where these hooks happen. You're getting rid of all the beard, right?
Mm-hmm. Up until it goes to you.
Okay. One side, done. Let's replicate it on the other. All right, guys, so here it is. 0 tapers are in. You can already see where that blend is gonna come together and tie this whole mullet theme together with the modern day tapers. So from here, you could either showcase the taper with all strictly clipper work, or you could even like add in your clipper over comb. So what I like doing is clipper over comb. You have a more safe bet on what goes and what stays. So by pulling off the hair and the comb off the scalp, you could already see how the comb is going to flex in order for that blend to really take into play. So chase here. And just by that first cut, we could see already, wow, look at that. Really, really nice. And gradually, when you get to the bottom section, you could grab the scalp a bit tighter, flex the comb a bit harder. Just like that. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So debulking is finished. Let's make sure that this is all connected and we get all these long little subsections that we missed. Pull the hair straight off the head, raise it up, and by raising it up, once the hair falls down after it's been cut, you get a softer finish, just like that. That's exactly what you want to see. Something beautifully all tied in together, and this is just strictly with clipper comb. So if you guys are able to hone this technique and make sure that you get it all to fall how you want it to without having to put a guard on, this is the most elite technique you could use in the field that you're in control of, instead of having to waste your time with putting different number guards on to try to chase the length when you could just chase it straight to the comb. Just like that. And here we go on side number 2. Raise it off the head up above. Get a softer finish down low once it all falls. There it is. It's beautifully executed here. There. So now this leaves us with this little pocket window to work with. And on this side, same thing. This little panel to work with all the way down to the bottom. What we'll do here is we'll pop on our number 2 guard. And we're gonna really like, and when I mean really, you're gonna scoop the hell out of this in order for this blend to really come out. So from number 2, open. Such a tight condensed area that anything and everything that you do will show. Especially if you have hair as nice as Jules, it'll definitely show. So we definitely cannot mess this up. You're gonna make it look as good as possible, make it look amazing. Open, you're gonna close it halfway, 2 notches on the JRL. Close it all the way, 2 more notches. We're gonna pop on our number 1 half guard. Same idea, from open, halfway close, fully close. I'm gonna chase this all the way down to the last guard, which is gonna be our 0.5. You can see this all tying together quite nicely. 2 notches. Fully closed. So now we're on to our number 1 guard. Fully opened. Same idea, same concept, except we're gonna add in 2 extra sub increments. So instead of going from open to halfway, we're gonna go from open to quarter closed. Since it's a tighter guard, it's gonna require extra added steps for this to really flow seamlessly. So open, Close it a quarter. Close it another quarter. We're about halfway now. Close it an extra quarter. We're about 3/4 of the way closed. And finally fully closed. We'll give you a true number 1. All right. Next, I'm gonna switch over to another clipper, and we're gonna slap our number 0.5 guard on this, and we're gonna do the same exact thing we did with the 1 guard from open. This is where you start to see it all tie together. See how beautifully this is all coming out. I'll close it a quarter. Close it another quarter. We're about halfway. Close it another quarter. Now we're 3/4 of the way closed. And then finally fully closed. Back open just to rebuff out those areas. Just readjusting on the fly. It's nice to add in those extra steps. Close it a quarter. Now we'll switch over to a brush and another clipper, and we're gonna do some open blade work. So we're gonna brush the subject on like so. And what we're gonna be working on is this little bottom line, and treat this same exact way we treated that 0.5 guard. Close it a quarter. Another quarter. Another quarter. You guys could really see it come together now. We're about 3/4 of the way closed, and this line is almost fully gone. And finally all the way closed. The very, very bottom line here. For sections like this, I like using as much of blade estate as possible. Instead of just picking away at the very, very corners for detailed work, I like using the majority of the blade to cover a lot of ground. From the top, start from open, just to rebuff out those little certain sections that we missed. Forward to close, forward to close, all the way closed here at the very, very bottom. You see that there's a little bit of a shot line up top here, so if we remembered what steps we took here last, we definitely could hit that with a number 1 guard. But if we want to be efficient with our time, we'll have that 0.5 guard, and we'll just lightly feather on top of it, like that. And you could close it the slightest bit to chase that subsection. Just feel for it and hear it grabbing that hair. And if you do this right, this will save you time for not putting on the number 1 guard and just using the guard that's already on previously. Fully closed just to be sure. Coming up to finishing up this one side now, you guys get to see what the taper should look like on the one side compared to the other, unfinished, but ready to go. And we'll do the exact same thing. So I'm going to show you guys the final product of fully clippered, just faded each side for the tapers before we hit it with the finishing tool. So right now we have Jules' right side, no hooks. As you can see, everything's all faded and nice and tight. And left side, how it all looks before we hit it with the finishing tool. So next up, we'll use our Bronze Series 9. This is my favorite tool. It gives the most comfortable shave. And this is what's gonna implement that burst in order for this all to tie in together, essentially. So here, right about here is where we implement that trimmer line. So we're gonna stay beneath that, but we're gonna flick into that certain area in order for this shaver to fit. And if it does start to bulk up a tad little bit, I would recommend pulling back your clipper. Start with it being open. And you're gonna just basically pick apart this little section to kind of just tie it even more tightly and seamlessly. And this does usually happen if you do have a foil shaver transition leading into your trimmer line and your zero line with the clipper. But fear not, just retrace those steps. And this is how it should look once you finalize it all. On to the next side. Repeat the same exact step. And if you do it right, you don't have to knock out that top subsection with your clipper. Everything just faded in nice and seamlessly. Next up, what we're gonna do now is just style Jules' hair and line up beneath this little nape line. We'll just tighten this up the slightest bit with a little bit of clipper comb action, keep it more natural and wispy. So instead of chasing more of a hard line all the way across and down, we're gonna do more of a soft wispy finish. So what I like doing for this is actually grabbing a flat comb like so and grabbing the hair up and off the head and just grazing the very, very tips, angling it. Get a more nice soft subtle finish here. Come down on it on this side. Comb it down just to make sure we get all those little itty bitty sections. So the last final step and stage to this, I like using sea salt spray. This is sea salt spray by the company Verb. And I like saturating the hair. This is gonna be our final finishing product in order to tie this whole entire haircut together. So starting from the crown, we'll spray from about 18 inches up and we'll let the mist of the spray drape down on top of the subject. And we're gonna use our second hand as a guidance in making sure that this covers every single little grain of hair and feel for all that little dry pocket before we hit this with the styling tool. Here's a styling tool we're gonna be using today. This is called a diffuser. So the initial deal with this is once you pop this on the head of your blow dryer, it's gonna blow out the air evenly out each and individually of these prongs, and it creates this like reverse suction of heat and air at the same time. So what happens is when the diffuser comes in contact with the sea salt spray, the heat actually crystallizes the salts within that mineral spray in order to create that nice gritty soft finish that we all favor and love. In other words, that nice dry matte finish. So low airflow, low heat when we're in control of this whole entire device. And we're gonna start from the crown and we're gonna work all the way around onto either side, spinning clockwise and counterclockwise. Make sure that it's all crazy textured and all thrown into all different kind of ways. Right, so finally finishing everything up. I like to throw everything up and kind of create this controlled chaos. I like teasing the hair. That's just simply just doing this grabbing motion by itching and grabbing and pushing hairs into one another, getting them to intertwine, pushing hair into one another, even for the back as well. Same thing, itch everything into one another, make sure it's all intertwined and throwed. The panels are like moving things forward like this onto the sides, pinch and grab, pull certain sections, make sure things kind of just all fall and correlate with one another, and it all ties together for this gnarly, rugged looking mullet with modern day tapers. All right guys, that's how you do a modern day mullet with the zero tapers to accentuate its retro look. Thanks, Jewel.
Thanks, Rocky.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Sounds good.